Hey Phil, thanks for the question. Really cool question too, because you know, I am always looking for excuses to talk about my most recent abyssal arc, is what I like to call it, which is my journey into my own personal shadow self, my abyss. And that's a whole fucking spiel that took over the last year and a half, 2 years of my life. But you're asking for even before that. And I like that a lot because I don't really think about that too much. So to spare you the trouble of going through a freaking another 30-minute video, I'm just going to try to keep it light. I'm going to try to keep it shallow. And you or anyone else can feel free to ask me any more questions if you want me to get into more depth in any places. So, I kind of forgot what your question was. I'm recording on my phone. I'm not looking at the prompt, but if I remember correctly, you asked how life is after school, right? And in particularly music wise, I'm guessing, I think. So I graduated from Portland State in December 2020. So that was in the inception, that was in the very beginning of COVID, pretty much. And to touch on that a little bit, I was spending the night at I was hanging out with my partner all the freaking time, and I was writing a lot of great songs too. And I was on unemployment. So that lasted until the next summer, next following summer, and then she dumped me. So I got into a really big depression, and my room is messy now though, so I don't think it's always a symptom. Having a messy, disorganized room is always a symptom of depression, but it definitely was in this case where I had a whole freaking floor to myself, and then like fucking three giant bags of trash just hanging out behind me, and this video game called Valorant came out, and I was playing it before I got dumped, but I was especially playing it after. And I played it so much, dude. I literally did nothing else. I probably played it for like 12 hours a day for maybe the next year or two because I wasn't really gigging, with my band at the time. We did have a lot of meetups. We did try to record some EPs and stuff, but Learning Stages, my band in Portland at the time, definitely fell off because of COVID and because our bass player left the band. And we had a really hard time finding a bass player since then. So my music life, I like literally gave up music. I had always been playing music as a hobby, as my own pursuit of self discovery. But I was just so bummed out, because I got dumped and shit. I wrote a couple sad songs, and then every time I play music, I get emotional. Even today, obviously. So I just couldn't handle it. So I escaped into the world of Valorant, and I got super good. I got in the top 1%. It was my first shooter, first PC shooter, first shooter since freaking like 6 years before that when I played Call of Duty on the PlayStation 3. So I spent so many freaking hours. I met a lot of cool people, a lot of fake bitches as well. I had a great time. And I even tried to be a freaking esports coach for C9, and I made an audition for that. And I got really serious with my passion for Valorant for the next year and a half or two to three, from until like 2023. So pretty much after I graduated in 2020, 2021 was kind of my peak at that point. And then, the following, that summer of the 2021, this is already a 5 minute spiel. I'm only in the fucking first year. So I don't have to go super in depth, even though I can always do that. Um, Bear with me. Thank you for asking. I'll try to make this easy on both of us. Still, so my depression was only increasing literally. Like it only got worse. And I was living in Portland, working at this place called Free Geek, which is really cool. And long story short, I got wrongly fired. Got wrongly fired, and they like we were unionized, and then well, I was on the verge of getting fired, but it was just so much stress for me at the time that I quit. And then it was like maybe a 3 month window where I had built up, maybe like a 2 month window that I had built up all the freaking stress that came with me being on the freaking execution line. And at that point, I decided that I couldn't freaking work full time anymore. I couldn't work full time and try to pay rent in Portland, Oregon, especially. So I had decided that I was going to move back in with my parents, where I'm at now. And there were so I got fired, or I quit maybe in like April 2023, I want to say, or something like that. April 2023. And then it wasn't until November that I moved. So in between that time, I probably had literally like 7 to 10 jobs, and all of them, I either didn't like get the call back for the second gig or whatever, or I got fired essentially. And I got fired so fucking much, and I that really got to me too. Then it wouldn't be until I got fired a bunch where I'm at now in Illinois that I realized that I don't think that that was really a me problem, because I think I just got fired because I'm like a very independent spirit, and it that whole experience, the last like freaking 4 or 5 years of my life, gave me such a bad taste with the work industry and like being an employee. And like right now it's the end of 2025. My last job, I got fired at Mod Pizza at the end of 2023, in like December 2023. And it was from that point on that I just decided that, like fucking working for another person was not for me, because people are always looking for reasons to fire me, even though I'm such a good employee. Like I would get personal tips all the time that I would still give to my the team and the staff, but people would just be looking for ways to fire me. And since I'm at an at will state, they can just do it, and if it's really hard to prove wrongful termination. And so literally this whole time, I went so this whole time I went from like before COVID, I would play music maybe like 70% of my lifestyle. And that was my own personal practice, my own personal songwriting and posting to Instagram, working with my band, and then like gigging. And we had a winter wonder tour is what we called it in 2019. So things, we were like looking really good as a band before COVID destroyed everything. Like we were actually climbing and doing really well. So yeah, Valorant didn't work out for me, and I had to let go of that, my aspiration to be a professional gamer, because I've always wanted to be a professional gamer. And I didn't think that I could until I happened to get depressed and got really good at it. The video game. It's fucking 9 minutes right now. So, long story short, I guess even more so, we get to the. Oh yeah, so in the last like 4 years, I've been playing music maybe like 10% of my lifestyle, like a complete drop from 70% to 10% of my lifestyle. And um, it wasn't until my abyssal arc started to ferment and started to get into fruition. And my abyssal arc is very motivated by the work experiences that I've had, and like my experiences in the real world, and especially my experience working in the psychology industry, which I fucking don't respect at all. I really don't respect it at all at this point. I used to freaking look up to it so much, but now I see it all as a business. And I don't think people really care about their clients as much as they like to pretend they do. And that was my main motivation, to do that work. Because that work isn't the best paying work, I was never I never pursue anything for money. And I only wanted to help people and to help people find themselves and to discover new ways to go about life that they might not have thought about previously. So I had a BS experience there that I finally had to realize. I've been playing music my whole life. I've always been really good. No one's ever complained about my playing. No one's ever criticized me negatively until like recently, until like the last couple months, which is so funny. Is like when I'm actually like going ham. That's when people are trying, but it's mainly because I'm shitting on their favorite songs, probably, because I'm just like, I'm just doing whatever the fuck I want. Um, so I understand it. I also don't like respect their opinion more than I respect my opinion. So they're gonna have to deal with it, and I'll just have to deal with the freaking hecklers that I get along the way. So yeah, so I got fired from this place, this mental health institution, before I got fired at Mod Pizza. And this was in April 2023. And this was my last psychology gig. And when I lost all hope for that, that was like almost peak depression for me. Um, it wasn't until around okay, well, this is really complicated, dude, because I hadn't gotten back into music until what, like February 2024. So I literally had like a 4-year break or something from music after like playing music pretty much all the time since I can remember. So my so a lot of things have been motivating me, and to spare the privacy, of whoever. Before I got fired from Odd Pizza, it's crazy actually. Like a week or two before I got fired, we had learned that someone in my family had cancers, and they were like pretty late in their cancer. And I told my boss too, and then I just can't believe they freaking fired me after that. Like they didn't even give a fuck. It's crazy. Because I'm a great worker, dude. So it's like that's a whole different story. You can inquire more within, because I have some pretty funny stories about that actually that I want to bring up, but I won't. So that happened. I got news from that, and then so a lot of my motivations now are to become something musically, to show that person who I especially have a limited time with, you know, uh, who I've become, and to give them something to be proud of. So that's one of my huge motivations when I do all this. Second motivation, is like just getting money and like being able to fend for my family for the rest of my life and not be a mooch. I don't want to be a mooch. I don't want to be a leech. I want to be a giver. I've been trying to be a giver my whole life, but I had never focused I'd never really focused on money until recently. And I'm still not even focusing on money. I'm still focusing on my passion and my craft, hoping that money will find me. So that's the thing. And then February 2024. So like okay, after I get fired from Mod Pizza in December 2023, I am like, okay, well, I'm pursuing music then. because literally my genes are built for this. It's kind of my destiny, and I've always struggled seeing myself as a musician. And I would be like, I'm not a musician. In 2020, when I could still play every instrument, I was telling my bandmates, I'm like, no, I'm not a musician. I'm just a songwriter. But I'm obviously a musician. I just couldn't accept it as a part of my identity for whatever reason. So I had to deal with a lot of that identity crisis. And I decided I wanted to make my album. And, it's still a work in progress. I've added so many more projects on my list since I decided that I was going to work on my debut album, my solo LP. And I recorded the song called Bruises, which I sent to Jeff Ellis, who is a producer for Frank Ocean, is Blonde, most significantly for me at least. He produces a lot of people like Doja Cat. Recently, he produced Joji's new album. So he's literally got multiple billion streams. And I asked him in an email in February 2024, I was like, if there's anyone that would mix my album, it would be you. So would you want to do that? Like, it'd be an honor. I sent him a copy of Bruises. I sent him a copy of another song called Fly. Told him that I was trying to make my way into the scene. Told him, who I was, and showed him the album art. And he actually responded to me, which, not a lot of people gave me attention back in the day. But I was also kind of shying away from the attention that I would get. So I don't blame the world for not giving me that light, because I didn't want it at the time either. So I have 2 minutes left. Thankfully, I'm towards the end of my story, but I have 2 minutes left on my phone memory. So, and then, also on that note, the summer of 2023, after I got fired from the psychology place, I met my good friend Brian Evans, who played drums on all the Tron records. So he's like a huge deal. And we got in a huge argument, 2 hour long trolling argument, and we ended up having a lot in common. And we became really good friends out of that. And he is probably the only person that like recognized me for who I was as a musician. And everyone else was kind of in denial that I was as good as I was. And I was too, definitely. But he really showed me who I was, and he helped tremendously, starting the fire that I carry with me every day today. And then blah 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 blah. We became good friends. We've collabed. We have some songs together. Blah 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 blah. And then Jeff Ellis responded back to my email, told me that my project was super cool, but this time we can't work together. And just him rejecting me in general was such a freaking honor. And like to be dignified in that respect, for him to say that my shit was super cool too. I like it was all the signs pointing to I gotta fucking go ham in music. So from that point on, and then like my partner left me in March, the next month. So I got really depressed, and within the next year, I became the world's greatest musician, dead or alive, artist, songwriter. No questions asked, and I have 4 seconds left on my memory. It's good enough. Okay, actually, I cleared up some space so I can talk a bit more, because I didn't get a chance to answer your question about drumming. So, my partner broke up with me in March 2024, and I dedicated the next 7 months literally playing at least 6 hours a day of guitar. I got so fucking good at guitar, got really good at songwriting. I was depressed as hell, put my whole soul into that shit. And it wasn't until November that I got a drum set again. So we just hit that year anniversary of when I got a drum set. And I've been playing a lot ever since. I've been playing less guitar, of course. I've been playing less of everything. And to answer your question, drums was my first instrument. I've been playing since I was a baby. I got a bunch of footage that I can share later in the future and stuff and yada yada yada, and got pictures and yada yada yada. Um, but yeah, I started out playing drums before I can remember, since before I can remember. And I picked up piano when I was maybe 6 or 7. I'm serious though. I'm serious, guys. 6 or 7. I'm serious. And picked up trombone before I picked up guitar, you know? And then I picked up guitar like maybe with like a year after I picked up trombone in 6th grade, or within a month or so. And then vocals was always like a thing that I did. And then, so, but I was always like the drummer in the bands that I would play in, which were like maybe three from 5th grade till um, freshman year of high school. But I also played in an acoustic guitar singer songwriter duo with my best friend at the time. So I was doing a lot of singing. I was doing way more singing and guitar at that point in my life, late middle school. And then I had a band where I dram in high school, but I also had a bigger project that I was focused on where I played bass with the same buddy that I had the acoustic guitar project with. I played bass, I sang, I played trombone, and since then, I graduated in 2014. I pretty much hadn't touched a drum set, until I lived with my drummer from Learning Stages in 2021, where I got interested in drums again, and I practiced moderately for maybe a month or two before I moved out. So I had a freaking whole decade break from drums. I've never been classically trained. I always just kind of hit the thing until it made sense to me on drums. The only thing that I've been classically trained on, or like, formally trained on, is piano and trombone. And then they only helped me get started. And then everything else is just my own curiosity and then figuring things out for myself. So, yeah, this last year having drums has been really good for me because I didn't realize so many different parts of this story. I'm gonna cry, dude. I didn't realize how much I missed drums and like how much it was a part of me. So yeah, I've been playing since before I can remember. Had a freaking decade break. And this is the first time in my life where I'm able to actually consciously approach the instrument with a learning mindset, with a growth mindset, and using all the other experiences that I've had with the multiple other instruments that I'm great at. I am able to apply those lessons to drums to some extent, and it's been shaping my philosophy. It's been shaping my everything. So yeah, I hope this is a good enough response for you. 24 minutes. Hey, I said it wasn't going to be 35 minutes, so like, what is this, 26 minutes or some shit? So, thank you, Phil. I hope you had a good time. If you did freaking listen all the way through, I don't blame you if you didn't. I don't blame anyone if they didn't. But yeah, that's pretty much the last 5 years of my life compacted in a little TikTok, YouTube, Instagram reel. Peace. Thank you for asking, and I'll see you later.